Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'm Anthony Bradley. I teach at the King's College, and I am the director for the Center for the Study of Human Flourishing there, also a research fellow at the Acton Institute, and watched several projects. I really would like to thank all of you Patreon supporters and everyone else for supporting the podcast, for reading my stuff, and for commenting, sending emails. It's really great. Today, when I have a discussion about this Dave Ramsey dust up, I was really amazed by all of the ire and the activity around probably just a few seconds of a clip about some things that he said about raising the rent, and which I thought was really, really overblown. And joining us today to talk about this is my really, really good friend. And I would say someone who is a genius yet discovered. I would offer that. Dr. Rachel Ferguson. She has a great article at the Acton Institute Power blog titled "Dave Ramsey, Christian Witness and the Morality of Markets." We're going to have a discussion about that today. Let me introduce Dr. Ferguson, and we'll get right to it. Rachel Ferguson is professor of business ethics and assistant dean of the College of Business and director of the Free Enterprise Center at Concordia University, Chicago. She is a board member for Love the Lou, a neighborhood stabilization ministry in North St. Louis, the Freedom Center of Missouri, and Rethink 315. She's also on the editorial board of the Journal of Religion, Culture, and Democracy. In addition, Dr. Ferguson coordinates the Classical Liberal Network, a collection of liberty-oriented faculty across the nation, which aims to engage with constitutional law and economics at the faculty, undergraduate, and high school levels. She co-wrote a book titled Black Liberation Through the Marketplace: Hope, Heartbreak, and the Promise of America, which is due out this summer, May, this summer, with historian Marcus Witcher. Dr. Ferguson received her BA in philosophy from Lindenwood University and her PhD in philosophy from St. Louis University. Dr. Ferguson, Rachel Ferguson, it is so glad to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I was on Twitter, as I often am every day in the morning, and I saw that all these people were just pouncing on Dave Ramsey. No, in fact, Dave Ramsey was trending. And I just said, why is Dave Ramsey trending? And so I clicked and I saw that there was this clip posted. He was making comments about raising the rent. And then I sort of, opened it up and I looked, and all these people were pouncing on him saying he was such a terrible person. So I listened to the clip and I thought, well, he just sounds like a business person. So I'm trying to figure out what the big issue was. And then I made the mistake of commenting and saying, hey, what's the big deal? He's a landlord. That's a business. Chill out, right? He's not doing anything immoral. And then I started getting pounced on after that. So you wrote this really, really great article at the Acton Institute, a power blog. And I'm wondering if you could just set this up for us. What was it, if you can remember, that Dave Ramsey said that was just so inflammatory for people?
Yeah, I think the sort of offending section of the clip, which we should say that's the only part that got tweeted out, right? It was like a 58-second clip, and it was actually a 5-minute discussion. So I talk about the way that changes things in the article that I wrote. But the offending sentences sort of said something like, prices are set by the market. You are not the one who made prices go up, right? Other forces are making prices go up or down. And so you are not personally kicking someone out of their home if, well, it's not their home, right? They're renting, but,
Right.
Out of the place where they live, if you raise the rent above what they can afford. And that really, really upset people. Yeah. So should I go ahead and talk about the context around it?
Well, tell us what he actually said.
I mean, so I don't have the text in front of me, but that was pretty close to what he actually said. I mean, he says something like well, he doesn't say determine prices. That's probably how I would put it, right? But he says it's
Right.
the market that raised the rent, not you.
Right. But he also said
economy.
but he also said some things after that.
Right. And
He qualified it. I mean, what was the qualification though? I mean, he said, the question was, the caller asked, am I being a bad person by thinking about this in a market way? And he's like, no. And then he explained in that clip why it's sort of amoral to sort of approach it this way. And then after that, he said a few other things. Do you remember the kinds of things he was talking about?
Right. No, exactly. I mean, actually before and after, he sort of acknowledged, we always want to treat others as we would like to be treated. That's a biblical mandate. He said that he had worked with a woman who had cancer, so that, he had worked with her on her rent, delaying being paid so that she wouldn't lose her home. He said, let's say somebody, you're getting ready to evict them because they're not paying, but they show you that they have a job coming up. They can show you the contract and they can get through until then, then you can give them some grace. So he gave lots of examples of ways in which a Christian landlord might work with a specific person in order to get through. But he said, but it would be strange to just feel guilty about charging the market price, right? Or to charge like 75% of the market price, because that would be the Christian thing to do. That's really odd. That wouldn't necessarily be the best use of or I think he was indicating that wouldn't be the best use of your resources. And I think he was right about that. And so the argument that I made in the piece is that, there was something I could nitpick him a little bit in terms of the way that he put it, particularly in that just those few sentences taken out of the context of everything else he said. And so I did talk about that, but I said, ultimately, he's right. There's a lot of reasons that Christians should not charge below market price in general, and should only make exceptions when they have some personal reason that they see that they can help somebody out as an act of charity. But in general, as a business person, you are operating according to the price system. And I try to make an argument for why that's actually a good thing to do, and better for the poor and better for stewarding your resources than just feeling guilty about market prices.
But I mean, people were wondering, is it, at least some of the critics were saying things like, I don't know if it's Christian to care about profit. I mean, and market prices. It doesn't seem like the Christian thing to do. To be even a landlord, but then secondly, to have the market inform your decision making. How would you explain why having the market inform your decision making is not immoral or something kind of anti-Christian?
Yeah, so I'm going to go way deeper now than I got to do in the article, and I'm going to talk about one of the greatest economists who ever lived, Friedrich Hayek, because I think Hayek makes a point that is really, really helpful. And I don't find that your Joe Schmo person understands it. And so it's really worth thinking about. And that is, when we are in a family, when we are in a church, when we're in a neighborhood, we're operating, it's almost like in a tribe, right? We're operating face to face. We know things about each other. We're involved in one another's lives. We can hold each other accountable. There's all kinds of relationships. It's personal, right? When you're operating in a massive, complex economy like we now have in a post-industrial world, he said it's actually a wonderful thing that it's not personal. And that can be very confusing because we want to treat everything like it's a family, right? That's the old utopian dream. That's what Plato said, if only the city could be like the family. And Aristotle was like, no, the city isn't a family, right? It's a totally different kind of entity, So it's important to talk about the fact that we're not always in a position to make a personal judgment. And one of the ways that the complexity of a modern economy is so amazing is because prices allow us to allocate resources efficiently without knowing a lot. I don't need to know why the price of this wood has gone up. I just know that I need to use a different kind of wood because it's too expensive now, right? And so things get conserved and allocated well because we respond to the prices, and the prices it's almost like they have the information in them, but I don't need to know the information. I just need to know the price, right? And so that allows me to make really wise decisions with my money. We're all calculating economically all the time when we think about whether we can afford what we're doing, with our budget. And then when it comes to profit and loss, and I always say to people, stop saying that the economy is run by a desire for profit. Part of what determines an efficient market economy is letting people lose. It's profit and loss, right? So both are really important. And profit is simply making more than you spend, right? So when you are creating goods or services, you've got to cover your costs. You've got to make sure that you are giving the consumer what they want. And if you stop making profits, you need to adjust it. And that's a wonderful signal telling you to do something differently. Oh, I need to, upgrade my product that I'm sending out, or I need to advertise to a new group of people. And that makes our economy extremely efficient, where the competitor at all times is, driving our profits down to zero. Except in some cases like pharmaceuticals and things like that, sometimes make a unusually high profit margins, but that's because they have patents, right? And so there are certain ones where you look, whoa, look at those profit margins. But a really good example of this is just the other day, Elizabeth Warren was talking about grocery stores. And she said, the grocery stores are just so greedy. Look at these food prices going up. Right. And I thought to myself, grocery stores have the lowest profit margin of almost any business in the market. If their prices are going up, it's because of inflation. It's not because they suddenly became greedy. That doesn't even make sense. Right. And so I think when we can, in our minds, make that distinction between this abstract concept of the price system that is a way for strangers to do good things for one another in an efficient way without having to know each other, and then relegate our, our personal interactions to that realm, right? And so it's a little bit kind of two different realms, and we have to be careful about that.
So why don't we just call it stewardship? I mean, that's really all it is, right?
Right.
Markets and prices inform our stewardship. In turn, you talked about efficiency, but that's economia. I mean, that's a way of sort of managing life within the context of creation. And so it seems to me, I don't know, I'm not an economist, but it seems to me that thinking about the interaction between our behavior and pricing and markets is just another way of talking about stewardship. And I'm wondering why do you think people assume profit, not law? I mean, they don't consider loss as evil, but they often consider profit information, profit signals, making decisions based on profits is kind of dirty and icky and unchristian. I mean, why do you think people believe that?
Well, I think that there's a confusion sometimes between the concepts of prices or as profit as a piece of information and profit as a motive. And so it would be true that it would not be ideal for me to do the work that I do just for money, right? Or just for profit. That would be a really thin way of living life, right? And the fact is, most people don't. Most people choose what they do based on their gifting and what they love. I've actually kind of tested this. I've gone around and asked people, why are you going into this? Why are you going into that? And they'll often talk about, well, I'm good at this, or, my family business, or, I love kids, right? Whatever it is. And the only person who ever said, there's only one person who ever said for the money, and it was somebody who was in law school. But I don't mean that there aren't lawyers who are doing it for the love of, the justice system, but that particular person was motivated by money. But most people aren't, right? We don't actually decide what we do based on what's going to make us the most money. But oftentimes we talk about the market system as though that's what people do. And so we treat it as though profit is a motive. And in fact, what it is just information, right? And so, yes, I'm trying to make enough money to cover all my costs, and it's telling me that I am, right? And if I make a little more above, what covers my costs, that's great, because then I can expand, right? I can hire another person, I can open another store, whatever it might be, or I can invest and save, I can open retirement funds for my employees, et cetera, right? So it's all just information. It's a way for me to calculate economically, or as you say, be a good steward.